The best organizations in the world, they have this sort of secret weapon they use for constantly getting better. It's a structured way of learning from the very best so they can become the best. Today, we're going to break down the power of benchmarking.
But first, let's just start with a really fundamental question, one that applies to any team, any company, or heck, even just yourself. How do you really know if you're any good at what you do? Is it just a gut feeling, or is there a better way to figure it out?
Well, that's exactly where our topic for today comes in. Benchmarking is what gets us away from all that guesswork and into the world of real, measurable improvement. It's the structured answer to that very question. So, what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, benchmarking is the whole process of finding, understanding, and then adapting amazing practices from basically anywhere in the world to help your own organization get better. And let's be really clear here, this isn't about just blindly copying. It's about learning and adapting. But benchmarking isn't just one single thing. You should really think of it more like a toolkit, with different tools for different jobs. So let's open up that kit and take a look at the 6 main types you can use. The first and probably the most logical place to start is by looking in the mirror. With internal benchmarking, you're comparing one part of your own organization to another. So, for example, maybe the sales team in Europe versus the one in North America. The big pro here, the data is super easy to get your hands on. But, and this is a huge but, you have to be careful. You might just find out you're the best of a mediocre bunch, which can give you a totally false sense of security. So, from looking inward, the next natural step is to start looking outward at your rivals. This one is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You and your direct competitors actually agree to share some information to see how you all stack up. The upside is huge. You get a direct apples-to-apples comparison. The challenge, as you can probably guess, is actually convincing your competitors to share their secret sauce with you. So if you think about it, internal benchmarking is like looking in the mirror to check your own form, right? Competitive benchmarking, on the other hand, is like sizing up your opponent in the ring. Both are really important, but they tell you completely different things. Okay, our third type. This is where things start to get really creative and can open the door to some amazing new ideas. With functional benchmarking, you start looking completely outside your own industry. You compare a specific function, like your HR department or your logistics, with the same function in a world-class company, no matter what business they're in. This lets you learn from the absolute best in the world at that one thing. And that can spark ideas you'd never, ever find by just watching your competition. Now let's zoom in even further and get a bit more granular. This one's pretty similar to functional, but instead of a whole department, you benchmark a single specific process. For example, any company that deals with products could learn a ton by benchmarking its customer returns process against a global e-commerce giant that's famous for making returns totally painless. Number 5 takes us up to the really high strategic level. We're talking big picture here. So this isn't about a single process anymore. It's about your secret weapon, those fundamental things that make you you. Your core strengths. A tech company, for instance, might benchmark its innovation pipeline against another company that's legendary for its R&D, even if they're in a totally different industry. And finally, number 6. We've arrived at what might just be the most important type of benchmarking of all. Because really, at the end of the day, this is the benchmark that truly matters. It's not about how you stack up against another team or another company. It's about how your performance compares to what your customers actually want and expect from you. This literally brings the voice of the customer right into the heart of everything you're trying to improve. So we've explored the whole toolkit, but how do you actually put it all to use? Well, thankfully, there's a really solid, well-established framework to guide you through it. It's a simple 5-step process for success. The absolute key here is to be systematic. First, you plan. Figure out what you want to benchmark and get a team together. Then you search for the right partner to learn from. Third, you observe and gather all the data you need. Fourth, you analyze all that data to find the performance gaps. And finally, and this is where the magic really happens, you adapt. You take what you've learned and use it to make real, meaningful change. Now, as powerful as all this sounds, it's not some kind of silver bullet. To do it right, you've really got to go in with your eyes wide open. So let's do a quick reality check on some of the common pitfalls you need to avoid. This quote from the source material really just says it all. A benchmark is just a snapshot, and the critical thing to remember is that the world doesn't just stand still while you're busy collecting your data.
And that kind of snapshot thinking can lead to some major risks. For one, you can end up comparing apples to oranges. You might even face resistance from your own team. And of course, you're always chasing a moving target. But you know what the biggest trap of all is? Aiming to be just as good as someone else. The real goal isn't to copy them. It's to learn from them, to become the absolute best version of you. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, the most effective way to think about benchmarking is not as some one-off project. It's a tool for continuous improvement. Really, it's a mindset of being relentlessly curious about finding better ways to do things.
Which leaves us with one final, very simple question to think about. It's really the essence of benchmarking, and it's a powerful driver for growth in everything we do. So ask yourself, who are you learning from?